Hi, my name is Ken Schwartz, Precise Sharpening, and today what I'm going to do is to review another one of the Nubatama stones. This stone is the 320 grit Nubatama in the Ume or plum series of stones. So what I'm going to do initially, of course, is to test the porosity of the stone. And again, it can use a bit of a soak. So we're going to be doing a little bit of soaking here. You can see it absorbs fairly quickly. So we're just going to let that run for just a little bit. And I'm going to introduce you to the knife that I'm sharpening. This particular knife is an ancient one as far as my own life is concerned. I bought this knife in college back in the 70s, and I haven't used it for years. It's a Gerber knife. It is, I believe, a 440C steel. My early days of sharpening, you can see that the bevel is very uneven, not particularly sharp, not particularly consistent. To give you an idea of how well it's sharpened at this point before we start, let me take a sheet of paper, and you can see that in some areas, like over here, it will barely cut. In other areas, it begins to cut. So, you know, it's not very consistent, and at best, it's suffering to get through a sheet of paper in a slice cut. So what we're going to do on this is reestablish a consistent edge from one end to the other, and see how well this particular 320 grit stone does for doing just that. So let's see how it's been doing. Okay, it looks like it's holding its water fairly well. We'll keep this available if we need a little bit more water to put on it. Okay, and let's start in on this stone and see how it does. So we're going to be putting a somewhat obtuse angle on here. Not too terribly fine, because this steel I don't expect to hold the types of acute angles that are associated with Japanese steels in most of the Japanese chukabochos or cleavers today. So let's see how it feels. And yeah, you know, so you really can't find an angle. So essentially, we are establishing an angle with this stone. Now, of course, there's no one final determination of how a stone works with a single knife or a single steel. So stones will react better or worse with carbon or, you know, various powdered metals and so forth. So again, this is an introduction to the stone, and let's see how we're doing with it. Okay, let's take a quick look at this. And we are already at a point where we've established a consistent area at the edge of the bevel. So let's continue on for a little bit. I'm particularly interested in the corners that were quite dull. And let's, excuse me, and we're already establishing a burr pretty much across it, but we don't want to spend too much time worrying about burrs because we haven't even done it on both sides. So let's get that burr off the stone with a couple of swipes, because we really don't want to have little pieces of burr floating around in the swarf. Okay, so now we're on the opposite side. Very consistent stone. Some amount of mud is generated, not an excessive amount. The mud itself seems to increase the rate of abrasion. Let's give it another little bit and then see how we're doing on this side of the knife. So right now what we're doing with the stone is pretty much establishing a bevel. And what I'm going to do is, as I've reached a point where I've established the bevel, I'm going to lighten my pressure on the stone. Okay, I have a very slight amount of burr. Go a little further. I think at this point I can just simply squirt the stone as it needs it. So let's see where we are here. So this stone is fairly close to splash and go. I'd say it just requires a moderate amount of soaking to bring it up to a point having a usable edge. Okay, let's rinse this off. And see what we've done to the edge at this point. Okay, so we have a fairly consistent grind all the way through. We haven't addressed any of the area behind that edge. We have a chip or two still remaining. That needs a little bit of work. So we can do a little bit more on the ends, but let's see how this is coming along. Okay, significantly better. It's quite good, actually. I think we've brought this thing back from the dead. We've very quickly established an edge on the knife, a consistent bevel. I think that it's a somewhat coarse finish, but yet it still cuts quite well. I think this is an excellent stone to include in a series of stones for your initial coarse work. I think that this would work very well in a set, and I look forward to getting some other opinions on it. Again, my name is Ken Schwartz of Precise Sharpening. This stone is the 320 grit Nubatama Ume series stone. Thank you very much for your time.